Welcome back, everyone, to the weekly Armchair Sports Talk podcast. This is your United show. This is Devil's Advocate. And finally, the European Championships are over. So we're here to talk all things Manchester United, business as usual. And today, no better way to kind of kick off the Manchester United's pre-season to be joined by my guest here this evening, Mr. Shane Dowley. Shane, how's it going? It's been a while since you've been on the channel.
Been a minute, yeah. Been a minute. It's good to be back. Fucking, I enjoyed yours. It's good to have United back soon, but I enjoyed yours and I thought it was really good competition, to be honest. I'm a little sad, man. I'm a little sad over how the boys got on yesterday. A couple of United players, and some of the sticks, some of the lads are getting, but it is what it is. We know that's always going to be the case.
Yeah, absolutely. I was worried myself when the lads were stepping up for their penalties. Maguire stepped up. I was sitting here on the chair. I was a shell of a man.
Do you know the way he hit? He hit it like it was like some Greek policeman was kneeling in front of him. And he hit the ball like he was swinging for his head or something, man. The way he connected it.
Oh, stop. It was an absolute bolt of a penalty. But
do you know the way he grabbed the ball and he got the crowd going, like, and I'm not English fan, I wasn't really, I'm not too pushed by England, but when he done that, I was like, I wanted to go to war for him, like my guy.
Speaking about obviously United, and we're going to talk about all things kind of Manchester United on the show. But obviously, I want to talk about United's players on international duty, kind of especially with England, because I think a lot of United's shining lights, I know we get the Pogba as well, but a lot of United's shining lights in this competition have been players who performed this season. Harry Maguire's, the Luke Shaws of the world, especially second half of the year, two of them were quite good. When you look at kind of the United players on England duty, Sancho as well, who when he did start against Ukraine had a very good game. How would you assess United's players with England, and kind of how do you feel about their overall performances still throughout the European Championships?
I think all United players kind of had a good tournament. I think not just for England. I can't really think of many that didn't have a good tournament, Janice. So I was really happy with how most of them performed, especially for England. I think Shaw was arguably was one of England's best players at the Euros. I think Maguire was probably the best defender at the tournament. Rashford probably didn't have a great tournament, to be honest. I know he was just it was just cameos here and there, but at this stage it's kind of expected because
it's probably just as well with him carrying an injury. For me,
I think I've
never been so happy to see Marcus Rashford sit on the bench.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's almost expected at this stage because it's no secret that he's really struggling with injuries at the moment. So hopefully he gets that sorted now since the Euros are over. But yeah, I think most of the United players were good. Sancho, I know he's not officially a United player yet, but he will be. He didn't get a lot of minutes. Like you were saying, when he did play against Ukraine, I thought he had a decent game. Yeah, that's all the United players for England, I think, is I'm not missing anyone.
No, you're not missing anyone at all.
Yeah.
I think
Shaw and Maguire were brilliant in the tournament. I think they were really good. I'd say the two of them will be in the team of the tournament as well.
Oh, they are. The team of the tournament was announced today. And Maguire and Shaw did get into it.
Was Pogba?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's okay.
Pogba, you'd be surprised his midfield partner is Granit Xhaka.
Yeah, Xhaka, something that Switzerland team is so weird because all their players are just tournament players. You look at Xhaka for Arsenal, you look at Shaqiri for Liverpool, and you're like, these lads aren't very good. But then anytime they put on the Switzerland shirt, and they just become a different player. Xhaka was probably, when they bet France, he was probably the second best player on the pitch after Pogba.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think Xhaka was very good for Arsenal for Switzerland in that game. But Shane, when you look at kind of the other players who are on international duty during this tournament, Daniel James for Wales, whilst they're in the tournament, I thought was one of their best players in the group stage. Looked very bright. Bruno I think we both know it wasn't his best tournament. But when you look at chance creation for Portugal, he was still their most threatening player, even though by people's standards he didn't play well. Even though he was the only player who was
I think Bruno didn't have a good time, but I also think he is kind of being scapegoated a little bit. Like, I think people are going over the top on it a bit. Like, he didn't have a good tournament, but it wasn't as bad as it made out to be. I think when he came on against Belgium, I thought he was actually decent when he came on. I thought he was a bright spark for him, and you know, the reaction to that game, he was getting so much criticism. I think that kind of tells you all you need, that he was actually, like, people are just kind of going over the top on the criticism, which I get it, because they were starving for it during the season. You know, this is probably the only consistent down point he's had since moving to United, so people are going to latch onto it. I get it, like, but if there's ever a time to invest in some Bruno stocks, it's now, because the shit he's getting at the minute, I think he's gonna be on that redemption season next season. So I think he's gonna come back with a bang, to be honest.
Yeah, look, for me, I'm always on the Bruno train. Always have, always will be. And to be fair, I see all these rival fans who have been slandering him throughout the whole tournament. I can't fucking wait till he steps up and takes a penalty against one of your teams. I cannot fucking wait. And you see what? I'll be there. I'll be the first person in all your DMs and publicly on Twitter. Publicly on Twitter when I'm allowed back on the app, because right now I'm on my second suspension. So let's hope. Hopefully,
Twitter jail.
Twitter jail again. I'm in Twitter jail more times than Donald Trump at this stage. But when you actually consider his performances over the Euros, I think for me, I think he was let down massively by his two holding midfielders behind him in Danilo Pereira and who was the other guy?
Carvalho was
William Carvalho. Yeah.
Got dropped up.
They were the two same players, and
yeah, definitely. I don't really rate that Portugal manager, man. Like, for all the talent Portugal have, they just don't look good. Like, and I know at times England kind of they didn't look cohesive in that, but they looked a lot better than Portugal. Do you know what I mean? I thought Portugal were so poor. I know he won the last Euro, so it's kind of, you might think like it's a bit mad to be criticising him, but like, how they won that Euros was so mad, because they were terrible. Like, they didn't win a game till the semi-final. Do you know what I mean? So, like, that'll never happen again. You know?
Yeah, 100%. I think, but when you look at kind of the way they played, like how they like, I know Ruben Diaz was bad defensively, but he'd give the ball out quickly to Carvalho or Pereira, but they wouldn't give that the quick ball into Fernandes. Even, I know McTominay and Fred aren't the greatest midfielders, and people criticize. But one thing they do is Fred pops it into Bruno. He pops into him straight away.
Yeah.
Like McTominay, he can beat that first line of the press, whereas the two Portugal midfielders couldn't do that. And I think that's why we didn't see the best of Bruno. And look, I think it goes without saying, when Cristiano Ronaldo is the main man in the team, everything's going to be going to him as well. So
yeah, I think it's tough to fit both of them in the same team, because you have two players that are so focused on end product that they're going to turn over the ball so much that it's kind of just hard to have two players like that in the same 11, I think.
Yeah. They kind of hindered each other, even though Ronaldo still did score a lot of goals. And we won't speak about the other player who won an international tournament, because I'm refusing to acknowledge. By and large, like, look, I think you look at other United players on international duty. Victor Lindelof, I thought for Sweden was outstanding.
Yeah, I thought he was very good. Yeah.
I thought he was outstanding in this tournament. Very good defensively, even though that's not me advocating for him to start next season. But what it is credit where it's due. I thought for Sweden he was quite good. I was trying to think of other United players who were in this tournament. Dylan Levitt got a game for Wales as well.
Yeah.
From the under-23s. So that was great to see. That young Dylan
I don't think McTominay had the best of tournaments for Scotland, to be honest.
Yeah, I think, look,
I thought he was good against England, but apart from that, I don't think it was great. But yeah, it is what it is.
Scotland weren't great in a nutshell anyway.
Yeah, no, they weren't. Like,
they weren't, and sorry to Greg and Reese, but I'm not really. Especially you, Greg. But anyway, I think that's all the United players who did represent their countries. Obviously, David De Gea.
We might just get a word in on Pogba because, man, he was having a fucking tournament, man, and his team left him down. Like, he was having one for the ages. I swear to God, it was like Zidane 06. He was having such a good tournament, man. I was bullied when they got knocked out, especially so early, because I knew he wasn't going to get his flowers then. But yeah, I just want to give him some credit, like, because I know there's so many people that jump on him the second they can. So, need to give it back the other way a little bit. I thought it was brilliant. He was by far France's best player. But yeah, I think he was the player of the tournament at the time when he went out. But obviously, you don't expect him to win it when you go out at the round of 16 because he go out so early. Like, so that's fair enough. But
yeah, look, I thought I said it a couple of weeks ago on the pod that he's been outstanding, and look, he always is for France. And it's the one time where people say like Pogba has like the team around him to play well, but by and large, he was probably he was dragging them through most games.
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't even think there's that much of a difference between his performances for United and his performances for France. I think his good games for France are overhyped, and his poor games are kind of less, like, they're let off a bit, because he could have a poor game for France because he has more quality around him that they'll still win, and no one cares, like, because people are a slave to the results. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if he's the same game for United, more likely we're not going to win, so he gets more criticism. Do you know what I mean? I get it. Like, I just think there's not that much difference between Pogba for France and Pogba for United. He even plays the same role. I don't buy into the idea that he has more freedom for France. He doesn't really. Like, he plays in a double pivot with Kante. Obviously, it helps having Kante beside you more so than Fred and McTominay or however, but he still plays the same role. He still doesn't get forward. He still plays in the middle of the middle. He screens a lot. Like, he doesn't make... Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities between his form for United and his form for France, but when you put on the United jersey, people are going to... it's going to change a lot of people's opinions. People are going to make up their mind before the ball is kicked,
Yeah, 100%. And I think look, there is games I've been critical. Me and you've gone back and forth sometimes on Pogba, like, but by and large,
I criticize well though. I agree. Like, there is times where he lets his base performance just drop too low, and that's unacceptable. Like, I'm not giving him excuses. There are times where he has to do better himself, but I just think there's some people that go too far and they don't give him his flowers then when he deserves it.
Oh, look, we all know. Yeah. Don't worry. We all know who them people are. But let's just kind of touch on him for a minute, because his form, by and large, last season, from let's say December 2020 till the end of the season. I know he had that little injury in the block. He continued that form going into the Euros, which, when you think about it, that's probably his longest vein of form in terms of consistency.
Probably his best form of his career, to be honest, man. Like, from January till the Euros, this is probably the best stretch of form he's had in his career. Because I don't buy into the fact that he was better at Juventus. He absolutely wasn't. People say that didn't watch him at Juventus. He's a far more complete player now. But in terms of, like you said, in terms of consistency and that, like, this is probably the best spell of his career from January to the Euros.
I'd even say December, Shane, because that Leipzig game, when the whole Raiola fiasco happened, since that game, Paul Pogba's form was consistent from that point of the season up until the Europa League final. Obviously, look, that was a freak game. Look, we all know what kind of happened there. We played the occasion, not the game itself. But I think this is probably most consistent kind of period of form in his United career. Now, people might point to 2018-19, where he did score 15 goals from midfield. By and large, a lot of them were penalties. But still, 15 goals from midfielder in that United team, was very good. But I think Paul Pogba is a player that, I know we'll talk about his contract situation in a minute, but if he stays, I think with the obviously Sancho is basically a United player, hopefully Varane and maybe even another midfielder, Manchester United could definitely be a force to reckon with next season.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think a lot of it hinges on keeping Pogba, because, like, getting Sancho Varane is really good business, but then you lose Pogba and it really feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You know what I mean? I know we're in for Camavinga, but I don't really see that happening unless we lose out on Pogba. But it is what it is. I kind of don't think Pogba will leave this summer anyway. I think it'll probably be next year.
Next year on a free, I think.
Yeah.
I'm nearly resigned to that fact now at the moment. It's embarrassing. Look, I think upstairs they shouldn't leave that happen again. The fact you paid 89 million for him and now you potentially leave and go for free after leaving go
That's
for
so
free.
mad. Like losing a youth product on a free and then re-signing for 89 million and then losing him on a free again is so mad.
Yeah, it's crazy. But again, look, that's up to the people upstairs, and
yeah,
we all know the Glazers, they employ the people. It's nothing to do with the manager. It's not the manager's fault that happens. Just so people can, I'm just going to make that very clear to people who have agendas out there who will blame Ollie for United for leaving and go for free. Just going to throw that out there now because I know by the time the end of the season comes, you can quote me on this. There's going to be people on Twitter and on YouTube who will say it's Ollie's fault why Pogba's leaving. I'm just going to throw that out there now so we can come back to this clip when that happens. I foresee it happening.
I think Ollie and Pogba have a really good relationship, to be honest. And I think if Ollie fails to convince him to stay, I don't really see a lot of other managers that would. I don't really think it's anything to do with Ollie. I think more so Pogba's probably just resigned to the fact that he's never going to get the respect he deserves playing in England. Like you saw, he dropped an unbelievable performance against Switzerland, and the first thing Gary Neville and Roy Keane said was he can't play in it too. So like people just have their minds made up on him already, and they're not going to change it because I don't want to say they were wrong. But so I just think a little bit of that is he's resigned to the fact, and I also don't blame him if he goes to PSG because the team they're putting together, like you have a really good crack to win the Champions League in that team. Do you know what I mean? And he's gone back to his home country. He's going to win a league title most years. It's a good move for him, to be honest. So obviously I'd like him to stay because he's my favourite player, and it's a good move. It's better for United if he does stay, but I get it. Like, and I'm not going to hold it against him because I think to a certain extent he's been driven out of the club by fans and media and like ex-players and that. And that's not to say he doesn't deserve some of the criticism because he definitely does. Like, he's dropped some stinkers in his time here. Sometimes he should have done more, but I think a lot of that has gone over the top by most people, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, look, when you look at his best period of form for United, I think it's most definitely come under Solskjaer. And I think
for sure,
Solskjaer's management of the situation when the whole Viola situation happened 24 hours before the Leipzig game till now, you can see Ollie, and like Pogba's gone on quote to say like he loved working with Ollie. So again, just to kind of get that out there that Ollie can't work with players, I just like to get that out there. Just the final player on the Euros, I kind of want to touch on. I know we mentioned him briefly. We say he was kind of the best player at the Euros, but I kind of want to mention it in a Man United sense as well. Is Luke Shaw. We look at this redemption story, Shane, in the last kind of 2 years, leading up to last night, scores the opening goal for England. Looked like could have been the winning goal.
Oh man, I was so happy.
And just had the tournament of his life.
Yeah.
And look at the season he's had. Last 2 seasons he's had for United. The season before, last 3 seasons even. Got Player of the Year. Was one of United's best performers in the 2020 season. 2021, arguably Player of the Year behind Fernandes, and then arguably Player of this tournament at the Euros behind Donnarumma for Italy. You can nearly make a movie. For me, I was thinking this day, you can nearly make a movie on this redemption story, considering where you came from, like Mourinho till now. Like,
yeah.
Give me your thoughts on Luke Shaw.
Man, I'm so happy for him. Like, because I remember we were criticised start of the season, and it was never a thing about his ability. Like, it was always just about like his mindset and was he willing to push himself? Because everyone knew the quality was there. But I was kind of resigned to the fact that we are never going to get it. Like the player we thought was in him, he'd never bring it out because he never pushed himself. And I'm happy to have been wrong because this season he's been so good this season. And I'm really happy it's carried on onto the Euros because he's done it in front of everyone now. Like everyone's seeing that. Everyone's seeing the player he's after becoming the last year. And I just hope it continues. I do think it will continue because I think this is just him now. Like, this is the player he is now. I don't think it's a purple patch or anything like that. So it's mad, like, because he shows great character. And I think a lot of what people would say is like he had a weak mentality. He wasn't that strong. But I think to come back of like the low point he had under certain managers like Mourinho, for example, I think that shows a lot of character from him to have come back from that, because it was such a low point. Like, he was after turning into a joke a little bit, to be honest. And yeah, like, I can't sing his praise enough. Like, I'm just so happy I'm happy for him, and it's obviously it benefits United as well, obviously. But he's just become such a good player. Like, I think most people would agree he's probably been the best left back in Europe this past season. So hopefully he can just sustain that form, because I can't see any reason why he wouldn't anyway. Because himself and Rashford are both young enough players, both coming into their prime or just after entering their prime, and they both have a good link up. So that'll only get better.
100%. And great news about Rashford as well, guys, is looks like next week he's scheduled to have surgery as well, which means he's going to miss the first couple of weeks of the season.
But that's fine.
That's great for the long term next season.
Because when he comes back and he's going to be in his Ronaldo bag again, it's going to be scary hours for right backs. Like, because he's going to be back. He's going to be in his 1v1 bag again. So that's good, man. Because it was so obvious he's been playing within himself the last few months, like, over injury. You know, and I'm like, obviously it's good attitude from him to want to do it for the team, to play through injury. But man, at times you need to think about yourself, you know. So yeah, no, it's good from him. It's good, and it'll only benefit him and United long term.
100%. And I think with the surgery news, and I heard it today that he's scheduled for surgery next week, I'm absolutely delighted. It basically means that, you know, I know we're going to miss him for the first maybe couple of games, but look at the numbers Rashford produced last season through injury. Look at the numbers he produced the season 4 without injury. Actually, sorry, he did have injury. He had spells of injury. He needed surgery then.
I don't think he's been right since then, to be honest. Do you know, since that injury, not last season 4, when he done his back, I don't think he's been right since then.
Yeah, 100%. The Wolves game when he had that injury, he needed surgery then, and he's after playing more or less a season and a half.
Yeah.
With, like, needing surgery, and now he's getting it, and he's still producing them numbers. And this is where even, you know, I attack certain United fans, and I attack rival fans who say he's not good enough. But you look at his numbers; he's producing better numbers than most players in his position in the league, and he's playing through fucking injury. Like, that's.
Yeah. Do you know, I get it with rival fans, because rival fans, whatever, like, you're just going to be biased and you're going to run agendas. But United fans genuinely don't like Rashford, like the majority of them. And I don't get it. I think it's because he's a youth product and they just want all the players to be big money foreign signings or something. I really don't get it, to be honest. I can't wrap my head around it. I think he's just such a good player. I think the amount he's added to his game from when he first broke into the team just shows, like, he such a good mentality and good work ethic. And I just don't understand it, to be honest. And I just want to say, like, big ups to him last night for stepping up and taking the penalty, and Sancho and Saka as well. You know, because it's kind of disgusting, the abuse. Like, we all knew it was going to happen when they missed.
The minute they missed the penalty, what did we all say in the group chat?
Yeah, no, we know, because this is what football fans are like. And I'm not even going to say it's just English football fans. Like, this is just, like, I don't want to try and score points, say, it's English fans, or it's United fans, or it's Liverpool, Chelsea. It's not a set of fans. That's just the majority of football fans are like that. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not trying to score points. That's just part of it. That's what fans are like. But it's obviously awful to see. But, you know, the 3 lads deserve nothing but credit for even showing the character. Like, you know, I feel like they were let down by other players in the team or the manager or whatever. But whoever's at fault for that last night, it's not on them. You know, like, big ups to them. You know, 100%. They deserve nothing but praise for it.
Nothing but praise. And I tweeted out on the Sports Armchair last night, on our Twitter page, like, you know, it takes guts at that age, all of them. Because even Rashford's 23. Like, you see, I know he's taken penalties before, but for club level, but, like, it takes balls to do that.
Man, and that's just a penalty shooter. Like, penalty shooter is just a lottery. Like, you can overthink it all you want and be like, he should have done this, he should have done that. Realistically, man, it's a lottery when it comes down to a penalty shooter. I saw someone criticize Rashford's run-up. Rashford's bagged tons of penalties, pressure penalties for United with that exact same run-up. Like, you know, so people want to do their think pieces and give a TED talk on it. Like, it's not that. It's just a lottery and it's just luck, and it was just unlucky You know what I mean? That's all to be said about it.
Yeah. Look, to be fair, I understand, that, and like, look, for me, I'm with you on that. The only thing I see when I seen his run up, when he hesitated, his facial expression, he looked very nervous. But look, fair play to him.
Yeah.
Fair play to him for stepping up.
Yeah.
Make the penalty. Like, even on this non-United related, but Evans in the comments here, Evans says, shame on the experienced players not pushing to go ahead of Saka. I thought that was disgraceful, to be honest.
Yeah, and I've seen like reports now that, like, obviously Grealish said he put himself forward, and I'm just seeing reports that certain players did put themselves forward, but Southgate had his list, and that's who he wanted to take it. So I suppose that's fair enough on the other players, but then I also think that's a bit wild from Southgate to be like, I'm going to put this 19-year-old who's never taken a penalty before in a game to take the biggest penalty in the history of English football. You know, I think it's a bit wild. Like, obviously he's seen them in training, and he's like, they're obviously practicing, and he's like, this is who I trust. So fair enough, you know. But I also,
as you said, it's a lottery. That's literally it.
You know, that's just how it is. They don't deserve criticism or anything like that. You know, even from missing, like, let alone the racial abuse they're getting, because you can't even comment on that anymore. Like, that's just ridiculous. That has no place, no matter what. Like, you know, so
it's scandalous. And look, the minute them penalties were missed, we just knew it. We knew it. Never mind.
It's so sad, man. Genuinely, like, and a lot of people will like. A lot of people won't care, and it's weird. A lot of people won't have that sympathy for them because they're footballers and they're so rich. They'll be thinking, yeah, well, they get paid enough to listen to it. It's like, that have nothing to do with it, man. Like, it's shocking. I don't know. I just feel bad for them, you know, to have to go through that.
100%. But just football, these things happen in terms of missing penalties. This happens at some stage in your career. But look, all three players are very good players. They all have big characters. I'm sure they'll come back. And look,
they're all going to be back to more finals as well, because that team is so young and it's stacked. I'm sure it's not going to be their last chance at an international trophy either. So, you know.
Yeah, and not less Southgate still there. I think if they get a more progressive manager in England, could definitely be kind of a prospect in international football. But enough about internationals anyway, because we've still have a good bit to talk about in terms of Manchester United. Euros are over. It's all well and good. It was good to have a festival of football and football on every day. But we're here to talk all things United. One thing United fans were clamouring for last season, Shane, was a set-piece coach. Because we know last season, a lot of times we did get done by zonal mark, and we did get done at corners, free kicks and stuff like that. Today, Manchester United announced we have a new set-piece coach in Eric Ramsey. Previously part of Chelsea's under-23, and set up. Anyone who knows anything about Chelsea's academy teams, they're very good and very well drilled. Eric Ramsey, who was a coach at the Chelsea's under-23 team, is now coming to United's first team coaching staff, and specifically he's going to be working on the defensive aspect of Manchester United game. Manchester United's players. He's going to be working on set pieces. He's going to be, working one-on-one with our defenders and their positional sense and stuff like that. So obviously, look, for United, this is a very good and big kind of progressive move for Manchester United in terms of our kind of flaws last season. And a lot of people who said Ollie won't bring in anyone from outside into the coaching staff, he has done that. So again, there's another mythological thing. It's gone out the window. Again, I'm always loving having these digs all the outers, because again, I just had to get that in there. But Shane, how do you feel about this appointment? Because it seems like something that's a step in the right direction in terms of helping our structure at the back. And I know we're going to get onto a possible signing in a minute, which I think this is going to come in tow with this. How are you feeling about this new appointment?
To be honest, I don't really know a lot about him. I hadn't heard of him until the news came out today. But it is good that it looks like United they're at least doing something, and they're aware of the weaknesses, like on the coaching side of the game. Like, so yeah, it's good at least they're like they're making moves and they're trying to actively change it. And
Yeah.
like you said, set pieces was a big issue for us last year. So it's good. It's assuring to see that the club and the coaches are seeing what we see as well. You know what I mean? But as for him himself, I don't really know him, so I can't really comment too much on him. But going by what the lads were saying in the chat earlier, he is meant to be very good. So hopefully
And as I said, like anyone who's coming from the Chelsea's academy setup, they are very well drilled. Like United and Chelsea are the two best academies in the country. So, like, I don't think anyone can disagree in that. Victoria's Secret says here in the comments, and I want to address this because it's actually going to bring me to my next point. Ollie will still insist on Sol Markin. I'm not. This is what I want to address here with this, Shane, right? If we get Rafael Varane and Sol Markin, it's not a problem. You have Varane and Maguire covering them zones.
But I don't even think we really do zone. We do a mix of both, and I actually think that's the best way. Because you see, we have our 3 players, whatever, lined up on the 6-yard box, and then we have the blockers. And I think that's probably the best way of defending set pieces. I think it's I don't think there's nothing wrong with the system we have defense set pieces. Maybe it's more so the personnel. And people need to do their jobs better. Don't get me wrong. I get Ollie has a lot of deficiencies as a coach, but I've never really gotten on to him about that because I personally have no problem with the mix between zone and man. To be honest, we've been poor at defending set pieces basically since Fergie left. To be honest, and we've gone man for man since then. So, and we've been just as poor. So I don't think it's just a case.
Yeah, under Mourinho, we were man to man. I remember we used to have Smalling, Jones, all them, and Smalling's actually all right in the air, to be fair. And we were always still getting better set pieces. I think this is what I think about this. You with the zone kind of half zone, kind of half man to man. You bring Rafael Varane into this equation. All of a sudden, and a new set piece coach in, I think that covers up a lot of deficiencies that we had last season. I really do think that, because you have the personnel to actually attack the ball who are physically strong, like Varane and Maguire. If they're in there covering that zone, let's say, I know Pogba sometimes can get caught there, but if you still have them in there, I think that can help tenfold. And even if you have a player like McTominay in that zone, he's decent in the air and he's tall, he's strong.
It's only going to benefit you having another player that's capable of going attacking the ball. Because I think Lindelof is a decent defender, but he's not great in the air, especially from set pieces. So I do think just having another defender in there that's going to go and win that ball is going to make a big difference.
Yeah, 100%. And then it kind of goes again with kind of what we said. It's not the system. It can be a mix of the system and the personnel, but if you don't have the personnel, the system won't work. It's simple as that. Whereas I think Varane's a game changer with that. And he's a game changer for our back four, which kind of leads me on to kind of our next talking point, Shane, is signings. Because obviously, silly season kind of started a few weeks ago when the transfer window officially opened. But now that the Euros are over, we all know transfer rumours are going to be more rampant. There's going to be more rumours, more progression in terms of signings. To kind of really give us a good perspective in terms of moving forward. But I'm going to talk to you first about our newest signing. And the club really announced it, but the official promo video and the medical won't be done this week. Jadon Sancho. I know me and you have been on the Sancho train since this podcast started. And look, he's finally more or less here now. We're going to get his shirt number and that soon. We'll get all the ins and outs to that. Well, I'm not buying the shirt. I've already said in the group chat today, and I've said this numerous times. I'm not buying new United merchandise this season. It's not happening. Not real merchandise anyway, because it's not going to the club. I will buy retro. Simple. But Jadon Sancho, first signing in the bag this summer. How are you feeling?
It's a good signing. It's a really good sign. It's nice to see that United still have it to go and grab some of the best young quality. Do you know what I mean? He's one of the best young players in the world. So it's good, and I see why fans were frustrated that didn't happen last year. But I even said, I think we were in agreement on the pod last year. The problem last summer wasn't that we didn't pay up for Sancho. It was the fact that we was more frustrating. We are willing to go into the season without any right winger, without any like signing stopgap instead of Sancho. So we felt like that would have left us short for the season. We ended up getting away with it, which has worked out really good. And now we've gotten for like 20 plus million cheaper this year. So I think the club were right to stand firm last year, especially with the way how it's panned out since. So
73 million, like we got for in pounds. Like when you
it's a
look
good
about,
deal.
when you
It's a
actually
good
think
deal
about
for
it, Shane,
both clubs, man. Like, do you know, like, sorry.
when you think about that, you touched on that there, right? That we got it for cheaper, right? Think about this for a second. 73 million was the figure that we paid, right? They wanted 100 million and then 20 million extra. So really, we've saved money and we've done well with this transfer. I know it took longer, but we actually have done a lot better with this transfer than we did those 12 months ago.
Yeah, no, we've got a good deal out, especially what they're because they were acting like dickheads last summer. Like they were getting way too fucking brave. Like, who's your man? Fucking Zoidberg, who's the CEO, fucking nerd, and he was chatting in the media. Zork or something, is it? Man,
Zoidberg.
Like,
It's called Zoidberg.
Zork. But no, they were moving mad last summer. Like, do you know their admin on Twitter? The shit he was giving us last summer. I never got so angry before in my life. I hate that club. But yeah, it's a good deal this year for both clubs. But I think the club, like United, played it well from last year on. I think they managed the whole thing well and got him for a decent fee this year. So I'm not too harsh on the deal for not happening earlier. But I'm delighted with signing. And I know a lot of people are saying like, oh, it's gone on so long, I'm not even excited anymore. But if that's the case, I feel like you need to take a step back because I think people are following transfers so closely now because it's all on Twitter and they're following like all the tiniest updates. And especially with this Sancho thing where all these updates aren't updates. It's just repeating the same news. And that's what's driving people mad. Like if you're frustrated over transfers taking time, which they all do take time, then stop following it so closely because you're just driving yourself mad. Do you know what I mean? I think transfers have always kind of been like this, but the news with social media and Twitter and the journalists tweeting the information,
Magnifies it, don't they? Like
it's a lot more accessible now. Like you're able to follow it more day to day, and that's why fans get frustrated, like and over taking so much time. But like if your ideas are going to take time, don't be like hanging on every last update and following it so close every day. Do you know what I mean? That's your fault.
Yeah, 100%.
Like it didn't take any excitement out of it for me. Like I'm still fucking buzzing. Like when it came through, like now when the news broke that was happening, like and I went on YouTube and I was looking up a few highlights and I was like, I tried to get his jersey then and there, but I couldn't like because he not after signing yet. Like
we don't know what's going to happen with the number 7 and what's going to happen there. But like,
I'm really happy with that.
One thing you touched on there, transfers and people magnifying it. Like, imagine people were there back in the day when we were going for Berbatov. Like, that took a year. That took like a year, and we were dealing with Tottenham and Daniel Levy then. And this is no social media.
Imagine if people were following transfers this closely when we sold Ronaldo, and all summer then we are being linked with Benzema, Ribery. It's like we're going to have the pick of all Europe's top ballers. Who are we going to place Ronaldo? And we get fucking Overtime, Michael Owen and Valencia. Respect to Valencia though, decent player for us. But the other two geezers, like imagine if people were following transfers that closely. Like,
yeah, people they would have lost their head. It would have been
Twitter
would have blown up.
Yeah.
But yeah, even you look at other transfers down the years, like Man United have kind of. You look at long drawn out deals that we've done.
The Rooney's deal went on like over 2 summers. Because I remember when he was on the podcast, he was on the United podcast, and he was on about he nearly signed. United were in for him. He was almost after signing for Newcastle, but then when he heard United were in for him, he wanted to wait for them, but they wouldn't pay up, so they were like, right, we'll come back in for you next year. So like that went on like 2 years as well, but obviously it's not in the news back then, so people didn't didn't notice it.
Yeah, and look, even Van Nistelrooy, when though he was injured and he failed the medical, and then a year later he signs for United then as well. Like that's another one. If you even go back to Eric Cantona, like back in the early 90s when we bought him for Leeds for 1 million when we were interested the year before. Like you look at all them things. Even imagine if you're a United fan and the whole David Beckham situation was going on back then when he eventually left to go to Madrid and all the rumors that were cranking up and all that stuff. Like people on Twitter, you just need to calm down, lads.
I think
calm down.
They're a bit spoiled. They're a bit spoiled on transfer because they get the news so easily now that they're like, why is it taking so long? And Joe, it's not as if like there's so much shit that needs to be sorted in these deals with the amount of money and image rights and all that shit. I'm not even gonna pretend that I understand it, but I know that there's so much shit that has to go into it that when people think that, like, people always come to the city, it's like, oh, there's no fuss, they just go in and sign a player. Like they act like they haven't been negotiating with that club for months, if not a year, and like
look
it hasn't been in the news. You just don't follow that news.
Look remember when Coutinho signed from Liverpool to Barcelona? That took 2 years. They were going back and forth for ages as well. So it doesn't happen at just United. It happens everywhere.
Ronaldo to Madrid took like 3 years. It was like literally 3 years. He said he wanted to go to Barcelona Madrid. Then we got him to stay for another year. And then he seemed grand. And then he was like, in his last year, he was just acting mad. It was really disrespectful, to be honest. But you know, like transfers have always taken time. You know, I don't know why people think that this Sancho thing is any different. It's been in the media and people have been following it closer than any other transfer for whatever reason.
Yeah, 100%. But look, we have our man. We have a good young player.
That's the main thing. We got him.
Yeah, it's not like previous years where we've been promised X, Y, and Z and we haven't got it, but we actually got it over the line. But I just want to make something very clear here. We're not coming across here as Glazer apologists or anything like that. We're just basically saying transfers do take time.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, with the Glazers, like it's never been about a lack of funds for transfers because we have money there for transfers. The issue is the other side of the club, the facilities of the club and the run-ins of the club has been piss poor, and they're hiring guys that don't care about the football side of it. So even though there's money there for managers to be spent, like it's been spent by incompetent people, whether that's the manager or Woodward or whoever. So the money has been wasted because they're not hiring the right people to spend the money well. Joe, it's never been the money transfer budget thing. And for me anyway, it's the runs of the club that is not ensuring that money is being spent well. And it's the other side of the club, the facilities, the stadium, the training ground, all that is just piss. That's the issue for me. Like the whole prestige of the club has just been on a downward spiral the last 10 years or longer. Like.
Yeah, 16 years. Like when they came in, look, we all know it's there, but we're not going to make this a Glazers show because look, I'll be here for the night if I do that.
Yeah.
But Shane, just on the kind of topic of transfers and other potential signings coming in, obviously Camavinga is a player that's on United's lips, but again, we discussed that probably won't happen, and not unless we know kind of what's happened with the Pogba situation. I know we touched on Varane in terms of maybe coming in to obviously help the set piece issue. Obviously, news came out today that set in personal terms are now not going to be a problem. That he's openly wanting the United move. When he comes back from holiday next week, he's going to push for that move to United. United are 5 million short in the fee. Do you think we get this done?
The whole time I was thinking, like, I still kind of think he'll renew with Madrid. But now, like, all the noise about it seems to just be that, yeah, no, he's fine. Like, he kind of wants United and he's adamant that he wants a new challenge. So I'm kind of starting to grow in confidence, to be honest. Like, if it didn't happen, I think I'd probably be a little bit surprised. I do think it would be a good sign. I don't think he's had the best last couple of years, to be honest, but I think that's more so down to he kind of just needs a change of scenery. That he's been at Madrid for like a decade now, Johnny. Just kind of maybe the motivation isn't there like it used to be, and I think a move to England, especially for United, would sort a lot of that out.
Alongside Harry Maguire.
Yeah, I think he's a really good profile of a partner for Maguire, to be honest, because he's fast, he's really good in the ball, he's good in the air. Joe, he's a really. I think him and Maguire is a really good fit, to be honest. And I know he's not coming off the best couple of years, but I still think there's a really good defender in him. I think there's still not that many centre halves out there that are better than him, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%. I think he's definitely a player who improves our defence tenfold, and definitely when you look at a potential back four of Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Maguire, Luke Shaw, potentially Dean Henderson behind him in goal, if I'm going to throw that out there now. Dean Henderson in goal behind him, who was very good second half last season. And then maybe a defensive midfielder beside Pogba. And then the central in with Bruno, Rashford and Cavani or Greenwood up front. That's a very good team. That's a very, very good team.
But Ollie building a squad, to be fair, if we can get them deals over the line. I haven't really watched Camavinga, but I was looking at highlights of Man U, which you can't judge a player by, but you can kind of you're trying to look at their skill set, and kind of see what way they move on the ball and kind of the style of player they have. And by God, he's so fucking wavy. I need him at the theatre. He looks sick. I know it's only a few clips, so I'm not jumping the gun at him, but my word, he might be the best midfielder in Europe. I think he might be. No, I like the look of him. I really like the look of him. And I know people are saying he's not a DM, which is fair enough, but I also think that you're not really going to sign an out-and-out DM, especially young. I think a lot of defensive midfielders don't start out as midfielders. They're just midfielders, and they kind of have to be molded into a DM.
Rice was a centre-back when he started.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like Bellingham's not really a DM, but I think he could be molded into one. I just don't really think many young midfielders start out as DMs anymore. Do you know what I mean? I think they're midfielders or whatever, and they just kind of become DMs. Like Fabinho was a right back first, and then he became a DM, or maybe it was the other way around. I'm not sure.
Who did you say?
Fabinho.
I thought I said Firmino. I was like, he's not...
he's playing in the same space as a DM, man.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Fabinho, when he was at Monaco, did play as a right back, but they
I think you're going to have to just sign a midfielder and kind of the club, United, are going to just have to turn them into a DM, which is fine because I think that's kind of the only solution, really.
You have Michael Carrick there who played there all his career.
He wasn't even a DM. You know what I mean? Michael Carrick was a box-to-box and played as a box-to-box United for years, and it was only in 2011, I think, when his legs started to go, he started to play deeper. Yeah.
Right. Remember, 2011, him and Giggs were the two defensive midfielders.
Yeah.
And then Rooney was number 10, Hernandez or Berbatov up front.
Yeah. Even Keane was a box-to-box, and he kind of, as he got older, he kind of just became more defensive-minded, So, there's not many, midfielders that start off as defensive midfielders and play their whole career. They often just kind of become that, and I think that's what United are going to have to do. And if you sign an 18-year-old, when people are like, oh, he can't do it or whatever, he's fucking 18. You know what I mean? Nobody knows what type of player anyone is at 18. Do you know what I mean? There's so many pathways your career could take, and there's so many ways it could, you could easily mold someone. And I'm not just on about Camavinga because I haven't watched him that much, but just players in general, you can
even the likes of James Garner, players like that who can definitely be molded into that role. Galbraith, there's players at the club who can.
Bastian Schweinsteiger was a right winger for most of his career, and it wasn't until in his mid-20s he became a midfielder on Van Gaal, and he's one of the best midfielders to ever play. Do you know what I mean? So I don't subscribe to that. Oh, that's not what he is. Nobody knows what anyone is at 18.
Yeah, 100%. As you mentioned, subscribe. If you're new lads and you're watching this for the first time, watching it live or watching replay, right below Shane, the subscribe button is there. So if you are new and you're enjoying this show today, do smash that subscribe button. We are back this Wednesday with our Manchester United Academy pod, which is our first ever. It'll be our first ever show. And myself, Shane, and Dylan Donnelly will be returning back to the channel as well Wednesday. And so that'll be a very good show. since we're on the topic of academy, your subscribe thing did kind of lead us into this great little segue just for kind of the last topic on the show, Shane. Training pictures came out for the preseason last week, when United players returned to train. Obviously, like Donny, Tellez, all likes them were there. Joe, returning loanees, Andres Pereira was there.
But I didn't see.
I seen him today. He was there today, but
do you know something? I've never wanted a footballer that like wasn't good enough for United to be so good in my life, because he just has the look down. He looks like a superstar. He looks so sick. He has the aesthetic down, but he's just not good enough for United, and it kills me.
Yeah, I remember that first few games pre-season over in America. He scored that banger against Liverpool and played well against Real Madrid. I thought, Jesus Christ, like
he's the pre-season Pirlo, man. Every pre-season, he just sells me a dream. I'm like, nah, this guy just going to be his breakout season, because he looks so good in pre-season when we're playing all them fucking MLS super teams, and he just looks class. And then when the season starts, he does not.
Remember his goal against Southampton?
Yeah.
That sold me dreams. Even when he played against PSG a couple of days later in that second leg, his ball retention was good. He was like breaking up play. He looked like he had everything, but then look, we all know kind of what happened there. Season after, he didn't play well. Then we signed a certain Portuguese number 10, and that just ended probably Pereira's Manchester United career. But along with obviously the few fringe players from last season who did arrive back to United's training ground, 9 academy players have been called up to kind of United's first team squad for pre-season. Just a few notable players: Hannibal, Shortiri, Joe Hugill, James Garner, Ethan Galbraith, and so on, have all been called up to United's first team for this pre-season. We're doing all of our pre-season in the UK. We're playing against the likes of Derby, Leeds, Everton, is it Barnsley? Or no, sorry, not Barnsley, fucking Brentford. We're playing against Brentford in pre-season as well. In terms, because we're going to be playing against English opposition, I think it's a good opportunity for all these players to kind of come in and really try to force Ollie's hand to get them into the match day squads next season, because I know Juan Mata signed the contract, but for me, he shouldn't be in a match day squad ever again, really. But like, that's just me. He's 30-something years of age. I don't think he offers something really, not unless we're playing Carabao Cup games against lower echelon teams. His legs are gone. I think, again, I'm not spinning the negative here. I've been saying this for a long time. Probably done at Premier League level. He'd be great in the La Liga or the Italian league, where the pace isn't as demanding as the Premier League. But when you look at these other players, the Hannibals, the Shortiri's, Hugels, the rest of it, who have been called up, who are you most excited to kind of see in action this pre-season, along with our first team players, to kind of mix with them?
Yeah, probably the same two lads who have been harping on about since last season, like Diallo and Hannibal. I just think are so sick. I think they're head and shoulders above the rest of the under 23s, but it's kind of no surprise, because I've been on about them for time. Like, we've always kind of been singing their praise on the podcast. I am excited to see James Garner though, because he is one I do rate him. Like, anytime I see him, I think he has that quality about him, and he's physical enough to play in midfield. So hopefully he gets some minutes. I'm sure he'll get minutes in pre-season, but I think it'll be interesting to know whether he'll be here throughout the season, or will he go out on loan. I would like to see him get minutes here, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't.
Yeah, like I think he will get a couple of games, and I think he will, he will kind of push on in pre-season. It just depends how well he performs, whether Ollie thinks he's good enough to make that step, or maybe he needs that kind of, extra season out alone, whether it's to a championship club. Or does he need that to go to a championship club or a lower league Premier League team, to kind of further his development. But one player who I can't wait to see in pre-season is Joe Hugill. He's big, he's physical, he's a very good striker, and I think he's someone for me who can definitely maybe get a couple of games next year when because Cavani's not going to be able to play week in, week out. Greenwood's can make that jump. Can Hugill make a couple of match day squads, play a few Carabao Cup games, and maybe force Ollie's hand? But he's definitely someone I'm definitely excited to see next season.
Yeah, I think Mengi and Garner are interesting ones because I think they're two players that I think the club have like accepted that they're too good for the under-23s at this stage, but they're unsure of whether they're ready for the first team. So
I
they're
think is
kind of
Mengi
in
gone back
that.
to Derby now, is he? Has
Is
he
it?
gone
Yeah.
back
So
there?
they're
Yeah.
kind of in that in between stage where they're kind of going out on loan. But I would like to see him get some minutes, please, especially Garner, because we are kind of light in midfield anyway. So if he could help, that would be great. Um, I know there's rumors of Ahmed going out on loan, and I really hope that doesn't happen because I think I know he didn't play a lot last season, but I think even in the minutes he did get, you could see that he does have quality about him, and I think he could contribute now this season. Like I think it would be a shame for him to go on loan when you have players like Mata and James that are probably going to get minutes instead of. Hannibal is a weird one as well. I think I haven't seen any rumors of him going out on loan, but I definitely think he's just too good for the under-23s at this stage. And I think he's just so sick, man. Like he's so
Galatasaray are in for him. They want him on loan.
yeah. That would be a good move for him. To be fair to Galatasaray, but man, he's another one like Ahmed that I just think they're good enough to contribute now. Like I know it's a
Yeah,
massive step in that, but you're not asking them to play every week. You know, we're only asking to get minutes in the cup games and just ease them into the squad. I think it would be fine, and I think they're definitely able for that. So hopefully it happens. But I don't know. I'll kind of tell. I suppose it won't be till after pre-season where news is coming out of like what players are going to be going out on loan. I expect a couple of them too, but hopefully one or two new faces can break into the team.
definitely. And one player like Victoria's Secret's touch on, who we always talk about, we actually have him tonight, is Eaton Laird. He says, looking forward to see Eaton Laird playing some preseason games. Could be an opportunity to see how capable he is for being backup for Wan-Bissaka. 100%. I think he has a lot in the locker. And Williams going out on
Yeah.
loan to Southampton. This is a massive chance for Laird.
Yeah, I know the club are like trying to sign Trippier, like which I think would be a fine signing, but would probably be priced out of a move. So if we're not going to sign him, I think hopefully Laird would be backup. And I get it's a big step going from MK Dons to United, but kind of if we don't sign another right back, what option do we have? Because Williams clearly isn't of the standard. To be fair, I think Laird is just so much better. The reason Williams was moved to left back in their 23s was because Laird had right back on lock. So hopefully, because we do need a backup right back, because Wan-Bissaka, it feels like Wan-Bissaka played every game the last 2 years. Like I know he hasn't, but it genuinely feels that way. It feels like he plays every minute of every game. And there is some times where you can see that in his performance that he looks absolutely shattered. And it's kind of not fair on him, to be honest. So hopefully, man. I would like that. I know it's kind of risky because it's such a big step for Laird, but fucking man, like if you're good enough, you're old enough, you know.
Yeah, and people say to step up from MK Dons to United. Didn't Dele Alli make that from MK Dons to Tottenham? And look what he done this first season. So
He looks like he'll be going back to MK Dons at this rate.
I know, but when you look at the step up, then
no, he handled it,
like
you know.
he did make a beating though. Tottenham are
Laird's just going to be backup, like, you know what I mean? So, you know, I think he'd manage. I think he's good enough player to manage.
Yeah, 100%. And just touch on that. Like I know I'm not misinterpreting and Tottenham and United are the same level in terms of pressure.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I just wanted to just get that out there in case anyone takes me out of context and thinks that Tottenham are as big as club as us. With all due respect, they're not. So I just
They ain't that guy. They ain't that guy.
But Shane, just finally, just before we wrap up there, expectations. Let's say transfer window goes well. And obviously we always like to remain positive. Transfer window goes well. We get the players we want. Ideally, City don't sign Harry Kane. Where do United finish?
They will, to be honest. I don't think Kane leaves Spurs. I just think it's too hard of a transfer for anyone to pull off. But if he does leave Spurs, he should be to United.
Yeah.
To save his legacy. Like if he delivered the Premier League to United, his legacy would be certified, man.
Yeah, 100%. But to kind of come back to the question, ideally, if United do get the signings that we need, and we do get, let's say, the Varane, we get Camavinga, we Santos already wrapped up, and we have all them players, where's your expectation at for next season in terms of what we can achieve and kind of where you think we can kind of move next year?
Like it's it's tough because it's such a hypothetical. Like if we get these players, but if we do get these players, like it's 21 and 22, it's happening, right? Nah, I don't know to be honest. Like it kind of depends what moves other people will make. I think City are going to be City. They're going to be thereabouts. They always are. Chelsea, when Tuchel took over, looks really good. So I expect them to continue that kind of trajectory. So they'll be thereabout. And you'd imagine Liverpool will be a lot better. They won't be half as bad as they were last year. But it also doesn't seem like they're going to add that many signings either. So
Wijnaldum leaving as well.
Yeah, like we're definitely comfortably, we're going to be top 4. I think the top 4 is kind of set. I think that there is like kind of a big 4 again. They've created a gap. But like, yeah, man, I think United are definitely, like, I criticize all these times as well, but I do think on the whole, United have they're underrated by a lot of people, because I know sometimes we don't play well and we get the result, but we kind of just we have so many players that we just have a lot of match winners like that can just change the game by themselves, so I don't know, man. If we got them 3 signings, like, we definitely be thereabout. Like, anything less would be really annoying. Joe, we definitely should be finishing within 5, 6, 7 points of the league. We should be challenging, like, a serious title challenge this year, if that was the case. Not like the one last year where the second we realised we were in a title race, we were out of it. Like, we should be challenging late in the season. Like, when the season finished May, so like April, start of May, we should be still fighting for the title, so I think if we got them signings, it would be top 2. I think that wouldn't be too much of an ask, to be honest, if we keep Pogba as well.
Yeah, I think that's a realistic expectation. I think I'll add to that, I think a trophy as well next season, whether it's FA Cup, League Cup, or I even go as far as to say Champions League, because the thing about it is, look at the way Chelsea won it. Knockout football is there. Like, Chelsea weren't the best team in it, but they won it though tactically. Again, look, I'm not saying we're going to win the Champions League before anyone takes me out of context, but we expect a good run in the Champions League as well. I think we haven't had a good run in that competition for quite some time, and if we do get the players we need, I think quarterfinals has to be minimum expectation, for a Champions League run next year, and that's definitely something we can achieve. But I'm going to wrap it up there anyway. In terms of tonight's show, thanks very much everyone for watching. Everyone who will watch later on in the day or tomorrow. To give you a heads up, we will be recording our first Manchester United Academy podcast coming up this Thursday. Myself, Shane, and Dylan will be recording that podcast. I do believe it's probably going to be pre-recorded, so we will release it about an hour or 2 hours after it's been recorded, once I edit it up and stuff like that. And look, we will be delivering more content this week, and Talk League podcast is back on Thursday as well. And Reece Russell will be returning with the London Lowdown this week as well. So Man United fans can be hosting the London Lowdown, so they'll expect fireworks on that show.
You're the biggest club in London anyway, to be fair.
Absolutely, and that just kind of signifies that United fans hosting that. And look, also, WWE podcast is launching soon as well, also hosted by Mr. Reece Russell too. So a lot of content, as we said, a weekly armchair sports talk, more sports, more guests, more content, and that's the way it's going to be. So if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, because again, we're not a football fan channel, we're a sports podcast. So do smash that like video, hit that subscribe button, and just stay tuned, because a lot of exciting things to come in the coming weeks. But thanks very much everyone tuning in, and look, we'll see you on Wednesday.
Thanks, Keane.